DeSantis is like fucking holding the country together right now.
Yep.
The governor of Florida, he's like holding everything together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Você pode perguntar isso, mas deixa ele perguntar o que ele achou das decisões atuais, né?
Vamos começar então. Peraí. Tá ok?
Tá ok, manda ver.
Então tá. Tudo bem, pessoal? Vamos começar aqui.
Peraí, rapidinho. É necessário enfatizar que a Titânio não é eu sozinho. A Titânio é eu e o Rich sozinho. Então eu não trago o Rich, né? A Titânio
É uma empresa de vocês dois.
é eu e o Rich. Então
Sim.
ele não vem aqui contratado por mim. Nós
Então,
somos
sócios. Sim,
sócios.
sim. Eu lembro da história. Mas vamos lá, vamos contar. Já começou? Já tá no ar?
Já tá no ar.
Então, vamos lá. Podia soltar o link em algum lugar, né?
What?
Are you translating or am I just doing talking again?
I'm translating.
Okay.
Well, we can go both ways. I'm sometimes I'm gonna ask you in English and sometimes in Portuguese, and go. It's free, you know.
Okay.
Let's flow.
It's about freedom.
Yeah.
Let's flow.
Let's roll. Pessoal, então vamos aqui começar o podcast aqui com... Mais próximo? Beleza. O podcast aqui a gente está com o Rich Graham e o Bob, são sócios na Titanium Tactical aqui do Brasil, e o Rich Graham é fundador da Full Spectrum Warrior, sediada em Flórida. Qual cidade? Which city?
It's just outside of DeLand. We're in the Ocala National Forest.
All right. So it's actually in the forest. Na verdade é na floresta. Bom, a gente vai de inglês e português, vai ficar meio enrolado aqui, mas a gente tem o Bob aqui para salvar a gente aqui do lado. Cara, sejam bem-vindos aqui. Se você puder se apresentar primeiro, o Bob, aí depois o Rich.
Bem, meu nome é Bob Menezes, eu sou gerente de operações táticas da Titanium Tactical. Nós somos o único grupo atualmente, né, já há quase uma década, que oferece Navy SEALs, veterano Navy SEALs aos atiradores brasileiros, como também para forças policiais ao redor do país, né? O Rich, quando ele começou a ficar mais em evidência, né, por vídeos do YouTube e na época Facebook e tudo mais, e eu passei 28 anos nos Estados Unidos, né, e eu sempre tive comigo muito engrenado, né, aquela mentalidade americana da segunda emenda, né? Então eu cresci com armas, eu sou fascinado por armas. Eu queria ser Navy SEAL, não consegui porque eu tive um problema de saúde, né? Mas quando eu voltei para o Brasil pela primeira vez em 2009, né, eu comecei a fazer um estudo, cara, de como o Estado brasileiro protegia os cidadãos do bem, né? Porque na época estava com a anta da Dilma, né? Do PT, estava do desarmamento e tudo mais. E eu comecei a ver, cara, que o Estado não protegia o cidadão do bem. Primeiramente, não permitindo que as pessoas pudessem possuir armas, né? E depois eu vi que não protegia mais ainda com o que a gente tinha de esperança que pudesse proteger a polícia. Eles não pagavam os policiais bem, não treinavam os policiais bem, eles não equipavam os policiais bem, né? Então, e eu vi também que estava tendo uma grande demanda para o público, né, começar a ter acesso a informações de instrutores de qualidade de tiro,
certo,
né? Então, eu previ que, esse negócio de desarmamento não ia durar muito tempo, né? O povo ia se cansar de ser refém do Estado e dos criminosos, não poder se defender, cara, isso é o nosso direito humano.
Sim.
Poder, primeiramente, defender nós mesmos, nossa família e nosso patrimônio, né? Aí eu entrei em contato com o Rich, demorou uns 2 anos para ele, né, morder a isca e vir para o Brasil. E, em 2012, né, ele veio para o Brasil pela primeira vez. E eu mostrei para ele, Rich, temos aqui esse meu projeto, Titanium Tactical, né? Ele já estava lá como Full Spectrum Warrior. E eu disse, Rich, vamos fazer esse negócio acontecer, cara? Ele disse, eu estou indo aí no Brasil, né? Quando ele veio, eu levei ele logo no CTT, né? E, cara, ele viu a oportunidade gigantesca que, né, como eu falei, mais cedo ou mais tarde, o pessoal ia se cansar de ser refém, vítima do sistema, do Estado, com esse negócio de, você não pode ter arma, você não pode importar, você não pode calibre restrito e tudo mais, né? E, cara, a gente tem uma vez que ele viu essa oportunidade, veio ao Brasil, fechou com a gente não, comigo, né?
Uhum.
E a gente tá aí, cara, fazendo acontecer. Não tem sido uma jornada muito fácil.
Ah, nunca é, nada que é bom.
Pois
fácil,
é,
né?
tem um ditado, cara, que diz: o doce não é tão doce sem o azedo.
Sim.
Né? Então, cara, a gente tem batalhado muito aí para fincar a nossa bandeira no território brasileiro, cara, e né, graças a Deus agora a coisa está mais em evidência, né? E
Sim.
o pessoal está realmente vendo a necessidade do conhecimento que o Rich traz para a mesa.
Legal. Deixa eu, antes de falar com o Rich, a gente tem que agradecer, né, a W2C, a Sansone Management, por essa oportunidade aqui de a gente estar cobrindo o evento da W2C. A gente tá, agora é importante que a gente saiba que a gente está na W2C, né?
Grande evento.
Grande evento. Antes de passar para o Rich, eu vou falar de educação, esse é o primeiro podcast ao vivo do dia aqui com a gente. Vou apresentar o meu amigo aqui, o Elvais, que é um grande brincadeira. Esse aqui é o Rodrigo Hadi. É legal que você falou de policial, porque eu sou civil, eu sou CAC, e o Rodrigo é policial. Então a gente tem os dois lados da moeda que a gente vai chegar, e ambos é bem pró-liberdade, né?
Sim, acho que tem um alinhamento de ideias muito parecido, né?
Além da cara,
além de ser
Parece gêmeos, né?
Gêmeos, twins. Inclusive, o pessoal confunde bastante gente, agora há pouco mesmo. Tal. Até o próprio Zé, né? O dono da Armalite confundiu nós dois. Mas também, eu vejo muita dificuldade, né? Complementando o que o Bob falou. No Brasil, via muito, né? Eu entrei no serviço de policial há 15 anos. E quando eu entrei, cara, nem mesmo nós, como agentes penitenciários, poderíamos ter acesso à arma. Ficou uma época que ficou justamente esse buraco ali, né? Legalmente falando. E eu mesmo, logo que eu entrei, não pude comprar logo de imediato. Né? E para mim não fazia sentido, porque quando eu entrei, eu falei, cara, quem vê de fora fala, não, eu vou entrar lá, primeira coisa, né? Vai ter instrução, vai ter armamento. Eu falei, cara, mas como é que eu vou me defender? Né? Como é que eu vou defender a mim mesmo? E, enfim, as pessoas próximas de mim. Daí que eu fui atrás de conhecimento, fui atrás de buscar instrução e conhecimento para justamente conseguir ter uma bagagem para isso.
All right. Well, let's make a recap for Rich, right? We talk a lot. You better learn Portuguese, man.
Yeah, really.
And at least a little bit to understand, you know. But like I was saying, as I'm a civilian, I'm a shooter, cop, whatever.
Yeah,
And he's
shooter.
And he's a cop.
Okay.
He's a special. What's soy?
Special Operation Sector.
Yeah, it's penitentiary special operation.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like a prison
guard.
special unit.
Yeah. Intervention.
It's kind of a US CSOG, right?
Oh, say that again.
US CSOG, that special operations for penitentiary. They have like those huge dogs with big beards.
Oh, yeah.
You know those guys?
Yep.
Anyway, well, the words with you, Rich.
All right. Well, where are we at?
I just explained how titanium came about, and tell them your experience with titanium so far in 10 years, and
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we came down here about 10 years ago and was working with the police. And one of the things that I've seen in the United States and with the police here was there just wasn't enough resources for the training, and the guys, the equipment was old, the ability to train was limited. So coming from the SEAL teams and what our capabilities were and expectations for shooting, our fitness and our combatives, all this stuff that we train there, and the level that we have for like approval that we have to reach. When I started working with a lot of the law enforcement agencies outside of the military and outside of the SEAL teams, it was way, way lower. And
in US or worldwide? Both.
And one of the main things was everyone was just telling me that there's no budget, that they don't have the money to do the training. They're limited on ammunition. They're limited on equipment. And I think over the last 10 years, what we've really started to be able to help to do, not just me, but all these instructors in general, I feel like there's been a lot more focus on building the law enforcement's capabilities, right? And I've seen a great improvement in the shooter's capability in law enforcement from 10 years ago to now. So that's been good, and it's really good to see that some of the gear is getting upgraded, that the officers are getting more opportunity to train. They still need more. You know what I mean? Like in America, the average officer does is one test a year. You know what I mean? So they do like 50 shots in like a year.
Aqui no Brasil, nem isso. Às vezes é 50 tiros durante a carreira.
You said that in Brazil, not even that, you know, some police officers shoot 50 rounds throughout the whole fucking career, you know?
Yeah. So to me, that's if you're going to carry a weapon, then you need to be training with it. You know what I mean? And that just goes for anything. You know what I mean? If you're going to be a paramedic and you're carrying the AGE or I'm having a brain fart, but the heart. The defibrillator, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, if you're going to carry that, you need to train with it. You know what I mean? If you're someone's life is expected, you know, if you're responsible for saving someone's life with a piece of equipment, you don't go to a classroom once, learn about it, and then never touch it again till 5 years later when you need to use it. You know, so any job that you're in, regardless of what it is, if there's a main staple, if there's a main like life-saving kind of skill set that you need to develop and equipment that you need to be able to perform with, you got to train with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that just goes across the board, in my opinion. This is one of the things that we try to focus on with that full spectrum warrior philosophy is to be a good shooter, I need to practice my shooting.
Yeah.
And I need to be smart, and I need to be able to use tactics. But to back that up, if I'm going to be a shooter in these types of situations with criminals, then I need to know how to fight. Because I might be in a fight before I can get to my gun.
Yeah.
If I'm going to fight effectively, I need to be strong and have endurance. So I need to have some kind of fitness level so that I can be a good fighter, right? And so on and so forth. And that goes into our health and well-being. So that's when we are talking about the full spectrum warrior approach. It's all of these pieces of the puzzle are all equally important. And you can't really do the job right when you neglect one of them. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
Só introduzindo para ele aos poucos, acho que a gente entrou já na conversa sem antes fazer uma introdução. Acho que seria interessante até para esclarecer que a ideia dos podcasts deve ficar bem informal, né, e deixar as coisas fluírem realmente, né, sem necessariamente um roteiro.
He said that they forgot to really make an intro of the podcast, but the podcast itself is very
open. Wide.
It's very open. It's very free, like, you know, just let it flow.
Cool.
A gente preza pela liberdade, realmente.
Of course.
We seek freedom here.
Very cool.
Não, manda.
É que não, eu falei isso porque eu tinha tentado algumas perguntas que eu queria fazer, né? E uma delas era justamente sobre esse assunto que ele começou a abordar, né? Sobre a questão da importância do preparo físico e do conhecimento de luta para quem anda armado ou para quem opera armado, né?
He said that I jotted down some questions because I wanted to ask you some, and you already started answering, which was the importance of being fit, importance of training, importance of being mentally able and physically able, you know, have the attitude to fight.
Well, when we do men's coaching, the health and fitness part of it is so important because men, whether we like it or not, judge other men by first appearance.
Of course.
Right? And when you do job interviews and all that kind of stuff, and you listen to these different life coaches, they'll tell you that, you know, 90% of that communication is nonverbal.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're not confident in your ability, it's people see it. And if you're not confident and you're not fit, then people see that and they see it as weakness.
Yeah.
Right? If someone is strong, right, then and they're fit or they're big. I mean, I'm not a big guy, but I'm fit.
But you have presence.
Yeah.
And that's important. That's a good thing, you know, because when you think, when you see a Navy SEAL or a police officer or any sort of special force, you're thinking as the alpha male, as a strong figure. But that helps you actually in your real life. You know, you don't have to be tough and carry a gun. You know, if you have that full spectrum warrior mentality, you know. You become like you said, you coach men, and I really like that what you said about that.
Because if you're fit, it takes dedication.
Right.
So when you see someone who's not fit, I hate to say it, and not to offend anyone, but the thought that comes to your mind is they're lazy.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And if I'm getting arrested by a police officer, and I look at the police officer and I go, I think I could take him, right?
Or that actually happened, right?
Yeah. Or I look at them and I'm like, there's no way this guy would be able to catch me if I run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so what's happening is the health and fitness part, before we even get into your capability, it's changing the mindset of the criminal. Because their first impression when they look at you, they go, what is your energy? And your energy is going to be based on if you are confident in your ability or not. And if you know you're out of shape, you're not going to be confident. If you know you can't fight, you're not going to be confident. It's going to be fake. And a criminal will read that very quickly. So they will eyeball you up and be like, I could outrun this guy, or I will punk this guy and beat him up and get away. You know what I mean? If I resist arrest. So now you're already behind the power curve, because the bad guy's already thinking about how will he outmaneuver you in the process of the arrest. Where if you're strong and you have a good presence, then psychologically you already have the upper hand on the bad guy. They go, it sucks that this is a dude arresting me. I don't think I can get away from this guy, and I don't think I could beat him in a fight. So now a dude who might have been non-compliant now is compliant, even though he doesn't know what your skill set is or your ability of actually fighting. The presence changes his mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing for as civilians. The criminal most likely will pick a weaker target, right? One that because they don't want to go to jail. They want to win. So they look at, who do I think I can beat? Who can I win against? You know what I mean? And they pick and choose those targets, right? So they can stack the odds in their favor. And that's one of the first things before we even get into the actual capability of your physical fitness. It goes into the psychological warfare before we even get into the physical side of it.
Se você deixar, eu vou fazer perguntas aqui.
Não, manda brasa aí, cara.
Isso é uma coisa que eu vejo muito dentro da penitenciária.
It's something that I see a lot within the prison system.
Porque os presos, geralmente, eles vão pedir ou, às vezes, tentar enganar aquelas pessoas que eles percebem que, justamente, são não fracas só fisicamente, mas fracas psicologicamente, né?
One of the things that the inmates scope out is the weak male, not only mentally, but also physically.
E eu acho salvo, porque já aconteceu várias vezes, às vezes eu estar entrando dentro da galeria, do corredor, e às vezes o preso sai, aí ele olha assim, não, esse aí não dá.
So there are a lot of times I'm going through the halls within the prison, and the inmates, they pick out to see if he's a weaker guard, but when they see him, they back off because they can't fuck with him.
Yeah.
Então é muito isso, a questão da tua a tua autoconsciência, a consciência de que você é capaz, né, o teu preparo, o teu conhecimento, justamente te dá essa força, digamos assim, que você às vezes passa isso sem nem perceber.
Yeah, your self-awareness, and your self-confidence gives you that boost for people to see that you are capable and that they shouldn't fuck with you.
Yeah, for sure. And then it goes into the actual physical part.
Yeah.
So physically, can you fight? And physically, do you have the strength and do you have the endurance? And then with that also comes, do you have the technique or the skills? So you have some people who we'll train different types of fight systems and martial arts to best fit that their build. Maybe if you're a smaller person or you're a female police officer, maybe jujitsu is really good for you to do because maybe you can't overpower someone, so you're going to beat them with technique.
Right.
But even to do that, like, it's exhausting. So you need to have some type of strength and endurance with that and some cardio. Then for me, like my background is Thai boxing. So I'm lanky and bony. So
Yeah.
But you have a great leg, right?
so it works well for me as a Thai boxer, you know, and I work some grappling too, but not like I'm not a avid jiu-jitsu guy as much as I am a striker. But again, even if it was karate, like if you're really good at karate,
Well fought, right?
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even, you know, maybe karate against a jiu-jitsu guy in the UFC might not, you know,
good
match up. But as far as the average person in a street fight, you know what I mean? If you got a couple really good moves that you can tap into and you can execute them correctly, you know, with power, it goes a long way. So, and then again, this is so important. This gets neglected a lot in the firearms community because there's a lot of people who feel like they have a gun, so they don't need to know how to fight.
Yeah.
And in the reality of it, I think that is a very, very bad attitude to have. And I think it gives a false sense of security. So the way I work with my students is you are a fighter first, right? Because in many cases, especially as a civilian, maybe not a police officer or military guy, but as a civilian, for you to pull your pistol out in a concealed carry situation
It's
on
very
the
dangerous,
street,
right?
right?
Yep.
There has to be a reason. Your life has to be in danger to the point where that you can respond with lethal force.
Yeah.
So that means you're already behind the power curve. Something's already happened. Something's happening that would deem you legally allowed to pull a gun and shoot someone.
Right.
So many times this might be you're being attacked and you might be being beat up, stabbed, right? Maybe the other person has a gun. So in the civilian world, that is either they're coming for you personally or you have something of value that they want.
Right.
In the military, you might engage targets from 300 yards away, but you're not trying to take their wallet. So you don't need to be up close.
Right.
A bad guy who wants your wallet's not going to shoot you from 300 yards away and then walk 4 blocks and come take your wallet. That doesn't
It's close
happen.
and personal, right?
Yeah, it's very close and personal. So in that proximity, the time that it takes you to realize that there's an attack taking place, you might not have the time to actually draw your pistol. You might have to fight for 10 seconds to then find an opportunity to draw your pistol under that kind of stress.
And it's fucking exhausting.
Yeah, yeah, and with the pressure and the tempo, and maybe you just got punched in the face a couple times, or you fell and tripped over furniture, and you're like here in Brazil, everyone has these tile floors which are really slippery.
Right.
So you might be scrambling and slipping all over the place versus standing on a normal shooting range. Like these kind of things change the game of our shooting capability. And if you're only going to the range and taking your gun out, putting it on the table, loading it, shooting it, putting it back in the case and going home and being like, I don't need to know how to fight. The gun's going to do the work for me. You know, I don't think you're really putting the odds in your favor to win one of these kind of situations.
Right. Let me ask you something. On W2C, you're gonna have like a small clinic, right?
Mhm.
And what's gonna be about?
So the clinic I'm going to do, as of right now, I'm going to do this.
Hold on.
Yep.
Just before. Eu tô perguntando pro Rich.
Português.
Eu tô perguntando pro Rich. Achei melhor fazer, vou parar de falar inglês pro Bob, pra você não. Eu tô perguntando pro Rich qual vai ser a clínica que ele vai dar aqui no W2C.
Rich, he's asking what are going to be the workshops that we're going to be teaching here.
As of right now, the workshop I'm going to be doing is going to be a segment of our combat mobility system.
Quer que eu vá traduzindo ou não?
Não, manda abraço, pode traduzir. Depois eu vou tentar traduzir, porque vai ficar meio bagunçado, mas ajuda já agora.
Você já
Pode
começa?
mandar, pode mandar.
Okay, go ahead. Say it.
So with this, what we're going to focus on is our weapons handling.
A gente vai focar no manuseio de armas.
So now you're translating?
Yeah.
But all the other time it wasn't translating.
Well, now I'm translating.
Okay.
We're gonna make it happen
Yeah.
later.
Okay. So I'm talking through you now?
Just right now. So because it's important because it's your
Okay.
Workshop.
It's your workshop. You know?
So we're going to be focusing on weapons handling
Iremos focar em manuseio de armas,
and our muzzle discipline within a crowded environment.
disciplina de cano entre multidão.
We're going to build a skill set for you to move efficiently with and correctly with your weapon.
Vamos tornar você a sua habilidade de se mover entre multidão de forma mais segura.
This is a very neglected skill set.
Isso é um ponto muito negligenciado.
The shooting range restricts us from doing any type of movement with a weapon in our hand.
O clube de tiro, né, normalmente, ele restringe a gente de fazer qualquer tipo de manuseio ou movimento com a arma na nossa mão.
In America, police officers carry a weapon every single day,
Nos Estados Unidos, policiais portam armas todos os dias,
but it's in a holster.
mas está sempre no holder.
The rifle's on a rack.
O fuzil está sempre no rack, né?
It's very, very rare that the officer actually has his weapon in his hand.
É muito, muito raro que o policial chegue ao ponto de estar com a arma na mão.
Here, it's probably a little more frequently because there's a little more crime rate.
Aqui no Brasil, provavelmente é mais frequente, né? Por causa do índice de crime ser maior.
But when we do simunition or airsoft,
Mas quando a gente trabalha com simunição ou airsoft,
I've had many times, or I've witnessed many times, officers accidentally shooting each other.
eu já testemunhei muitas vezes nesses treinamentos com airsoft ou simunition, onde o policial acaba tirando no outro.
Yeah. The thing of it is, though, you laugh at it, but once you start putting role players in,
A coisa é, pode soar um pouco engraçado, né, mas uma vez que você começa a fazer um treinamento onde cada um tem um papel
and you have sirens going,
e você tem sirene no ar,
and
né,
a fog machine,
e uma máquina soltando fumaça,
and you have all these people running around,
e você tem todas essas pessoas correndo freneticamente ao redor, né?
and in that you have a bad guy
E no meio disso você tem um meliante
who's shooting at the officers,
que está atirando rumo policial,
something that has been trained for years, like the Sul position.
algo que tem sido engrenado por anos aqui, a posição sul, né?
Doesn't turn into the Sul position anymore.
Não se torna mais a posição sul.
That relaxed wrist where the gun's pointed down
Pulso relaxado, onde a arma está apontando para baixo,
straightens out.
fica rígido.
And I've witnessed many police officers shooting other officers in the lower back or the legs.
E eu já testemunhei vários outros policiais, né, uma vez que fica rígido, efetuando disparos atrás na costa ou na perna do policial,
Under that kind of stress.
nesse tipo estresse, entendeu?
And we've all seen the guys at the shooting range, the civilians,
E também já vi muitos atiradores civis no stand de tiro,
just walking around with their gun at their waist,
tipo caminhando assim com a arma na cintura, né?
talking with their hands.
Falando com as mãos.
Like they're not used to having it there, so they're used to talking with their hands.
Yeah.
Eles não são acostumados né? Então eles ficam falando assim, gestos, né?
So we really focus on building that capability
Então o nosso foco é de fortalecer essa capacidade, né? Essa habilidade
of working through a stressful situation
das pessoas trabalharem, né? Ao redor de uma situação de estresse
and working those techniques so that the gun never points at anything you don't want it to.
e reforçar essa técnica onde o cano ou a arma não está apontando para nenhum lugar que não deva ser
And then
apontado.
Then that reverse engineers
E daí isso vira uma engenharia ao reverso,
is that when I do want to aim at something,
para que quando eu realmente queira apontar em algo,
you can't get away from it
você não pode escapar disso,
because we've trained that capability and understanding.
porque a gente já treinou nessa habilidade e treinamento, né?
Yep.
Então vai ser isso que a gente vai estar abordando aí na nossa oficina.
That's kind of tiresome, right? To go right and forth and I'm pacing up. Okay, we can
Não, mas
go free again.
porque né, o público aí brasileiro também,
Sim,
vocês
sim.
vão ter que ficar com a legenda. Então,
Até bom para entender, a gente não vai conseguir botar de imediato, mas a gente vai colocar para deixar claro e vai retaguear. Mas a ideia também para mostrar, falar um pouco, né? Porque eu sei que são um pedacinho do curso do Rich, né? Ele tem mais uma porrada de curso.
oh, yeah.
I know you're very prolific. I mean, I didn't hear.
He's an encyclopedia. Ele
Yeah,
é uma enciclopédia, né?
Yeah.
I think I first met you back in the day on ABA in Curitiba when you were doing. I think it's part of the compatibility system with Lucas Silveira.
Yes.
From the FESA, right? And then I went. I knew the other Graham. I mean, the Graham combat, and I thought you were the Graham.
Oh yeah. There is another Graham Combat, and he is also a really good coach. He's
a police officer, right?
Yeah, and he's known for his CQB.
Yeah, so something like that. And then how come I don't know that Rich as a military freak I am, like, and I went to research you. And the other day, I also, I'm subscribed from Poet Warrior Society, and I saw your videos there. And I go, oh, okay. And I think you had a podcast with Joe Week or something like that, or with Tim Kennedy. I don't know, something, or maybe I'm mixing up.
Did you ever have a podcast with Jocko or Ted
No,
Kennedy?
not yet.
No, not yet, right? But I think it was something close that I had.
He had a podcast with Chris Paronto for 13 hours.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and
Also-
there's been on like Skill Set and a couple of those other.
Chris Costa.
Chris Costa.
Yeah.
The OG. Well, back in the day, on those Magpul's DVDs, it was him and then Travis Haley, right?
I was just with Travis Haley a week ago out in Arizona.
I think that's it. Maybe
And Travis, he's an awesome dude, and he's got a really cool company, and everything he's doing out there is just amazing. And
it's pretty sick.
It was really fun to hang out with him, because what we're doing with the cognitive thinking and the combat mobility, and building on that proprioception and understanding of the weapons manipulation and where it's a whole another animal. But it was really cool because Travis is also doing this in his own way, and he's working with a lot of simulators, and he's doing a lot of virtual reality training with it, and it's awesome. And it was really cool because he's doing like the technical version, like technology, and myself and one of my training partners and great friends, Greg Mihovich, we've been doing it like the physical way in the gym and on the range, working these different techniques and exercises, in the physical realm. And they've been doing it with technology, and it was really cool to kind of discuss what we were both doing, because we are both trying to achieve the same goal in building people. We are just approaching it from two different directions. But it was awesome to talk with him about it.
It's kind of fun because I think his motto is thinkers before shooters, and what you describe as a full spectrum warrior, it's kind of a
similar.
Like it's kind of that saying, all roads lead to Rome, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you come from, you're trying to reach, and actually that brings kind of me asking an advice for our Brazilian community, because mostly, W2C it's very heavily on law enforcement and military and stuff, but we also have shooters, right? Even though we're kind of a class in Brazil. In US, anyone who can and is able to buy a gun can buy a gun, not us right here. So, what advice would you give us as a nation? To go forward in that direction of a Second Amendment, and Second Amendment, it's like it's bigger than having a weapon. It's like to have your rights of freedom, since our main motto is try to talk of very very broad ways of thinking. So what do you think? What would be the best way in your the way which direction should we go? As I know that you guys, even in US, there's like I know there's a lot of ego on that industry and stuff, but we can see you guys like you go into Travis and the workplace society and everybody trying to to get together in the single direction.
Excuse me real quick. I think that the right answer for your question, vote wisely.
Yeah.
Vote wisely, because if you don't vote wisely and you don't stand up for your rights, a leftist government will take over. And here in Brazil is going to be much easier to take the guns away from us. Stateside, since 1776, when the Constitution was written and they established their freedom, it has been since then a part of their lives. They cannot take the guns away from the people. But here in Brazil, it's becoming a culture. Right. It's becoming, people are waking up for the fact that, hey man, this is our right. The fucking government cannot tell us what we can and can't do. We're not going to have a police officer standing by our side 24 hours. We need to defend ourselves. So in my perspective, in order for us to continue growing, vote wisely. Please continue.
So I agree with that on the political side. So I'm not going to repeat what you said. So on the gun community side, I would say this. So Wake, you were talking about me being friends and associated with, Travis Haley, Chris Costa, John Lovell, or Level with Warrior Poet Society, and those other trainers. There's enough people in the country for all of us to be able to train people. You know what I mean? There's not a shortage of I'm not in competition with those guys. Right? Even though we're in the same business, in the same market. The goal is to empower the American people. So they're not my competition. Now there's guys who are doing things, and from a business standpoint, I'm like, damn, they're doing that better than me. Right. I need to step my game up. You know what I mean? And it's a positive thing though. And I think we need to take that and just be aware of not turning the gun community into like high school drama with all the bickering and the back and forth and talking crap about everybody and trying to cut everyone else out by the knees. You know what I mean? Because the people who we want to come in, like you're talking about, and join the gun community, the reason they don't have guns most likely already is the guns are intimidating. Yeah. And they see a bunch of these like tough guy alpha males with freaking skulls on everything and daggers through people's heads. And they're like, oh my gosh, like this is really intense. I don't know if I belong in this community. I don't know if I want to go there. So we have to be aware of the people that we're trying to bring into the community. We have to allow them to feel at home in that community and not push them away. Yeah. And one of the things that, if you walk in and you're walking into this dirty laundry session because all the instructors and shooting ranges are all talking crap about the other guys and everyone's an asshole and this dude's an idiot and that guy's a douchebag, then they're going to be like, dude, I don't want anything to do with this. You know what I mean? And again, there's enough room for everyone. Look how many millions and millions of people there are in the country. You know what I mean? There's tons of people to train. There's tons of people who want to learn. And I think as a community, we need to be more open, and especially on social media. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like one of these things, I'll just talk about it from a personal trainer standpoint. You got all these people who are personal trainers or who work out, and they see someone who's fat and they're like, look at this fat slob. They need to get to the gym. Then the person finally gets the courage to come to the gym, and then they're getting pointed at and laughed at because they're on the treadmill and their fat's bouncing up and down. You know what I mean? Or they're not lifting a heavy weight, and then you're making a stupid comment, and now they finally got the courage to come to the gym. They finally made the decision to come there, and then you drive them out of the gym with your nonsense. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So instead of embracing them and going, hey man, this is great that you finally made it, you're the one who needs to be here. You know what I mean? That's the person that you should be like, welcoming into the gym. And so I see that with the firearms industry, and it's a dangerous thing that pushes people away when there's a lot of people who want to come into it. And sometimes we can't, get out of our own way, and we drive them out. And these are the people who could be your students and be part of your, be in this community. You know what I mean?
Because every life really matters. It's not just Black Lives Matter, or I believe that women at any able age, you understand, they should have the will, the desire to train, because they're fucking victims of rape, victims of feminicide, like a lot of guys killing women, saying women should do it. I believe that we're not prejudiced at all. Do you understand prejudice?
Yeah, of course.
Não somos preconceituosos. But I believe that there's
there's difference. I mean, tem diferenças.
Yeah, but I believe that a clientele that I believe should start looking into getting weapons training of the gay community. Right? Because they're also victims of a lot of prejudice. So I believe that every life deserves the right to defend themselves. And what Rich was saying, that all these alpha males with the daggers and sometimes scares people away, when everybody should be welcomed, as long as you're a good law-abiding citizen, correct?
Yeah, I'm not saying get rid of the skulls with daggers.
Oh, they're pretty cool.
Because they're pretty cool. But I'm just saying, like,
maybe pink.
I'm just saying to understand that people coming in to the community, if you're on the outside, it's intimidating. Like, this is like what people have communicated to me over the years. Like, for example, I have people who are like, man, I want to come do a shooting course with you, or I want to come train with you because I'm also I don't do it very much anymore, but before I was a full-time firearms instructor, I was a personal trainer. And people would say, hey, I'm going to start getting a trainer so that I can come train with you. And I'm like, what am I communicating to these people that they think that they need to go work out for 6 months so that they can come do personal training with me?
Right.
And it's like, my job as a personal trainer, is to help build you to whatever your goal is. So it doesn't matter, like, but people will say the same thing to
be
me.
your own best version, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be better than anybody. You have to be better than you were yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So people will say, hey man, I'm going to do some practicing with shooting so I can come take a lesson with you with a gun. And I'm like, no, just come take a lesson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, but I'm nowhere near as good as shooting as you. And I'm like, okay, that makes no difference to me. My job is to be a coach. So wherever you're at, my job is to help you move forward, regardless if you're a professional shooter or if you've never shot a gun before in your life. And then I need, as a coach, to tailor my approach to the individual and to meet them where they're at and take them to that next step. You know what I mean? But the fact that the thought is that they need to go practice before coming to a coach makes me sit back and go, what am I communicating on a daily basis? What I'm communicating, how are people actually receiving it?
Right.
And why do they think that they need to go practice first before coming to me where I'm supposed to guide them? So it's just one of those things to take into consideration. How are we communicating to the firearms community or the new shooter community, right? To get them in the door and start coaching them and guiding them into being more proficient shooters.
Já aproveitando, né, nessa linha, estava aqui ouvindo e pensando, para mim, um dos grandes pontos, digamos assim, a maior importância de um curso de operações especiais é justamente o autoconhecimento e a autorresponsabilidade.
He said that one of the greatest acknowledgement in what we do is self-awareness and responsibility.
Mm-hmm. E assim, no curso que eu fiz, nos cursos, né, para mim teve momentos muito claros, assim, que eu achei que eu não ia conseguir. Por exemplo, no primeiro curso, né, de operações do serviço penitenciário lá, a gente ia fazer uma corrida de 30 e poucos quilômetros. Eu nunca tinha corrido mais que 10 na vida. Eu falei, não vou conseguir fazer isso.
There has been, throughout my life of training, there has been points or times where I thought, man, I'm not going to be able to achieve this, so I'm not going to be able to go through with it. For an example, when I was doing my course to become a police officer from the special unit, they had to do a 30 kilometers run, and I was like, fuck, man, I'm not going to be able to do this. I've only ran the most like 10 kilometers, you know.
E consegui, com cãibra na perna inteira, mas consegui terminar. E para mim aquilo foi uma grande mudança de vida, para saber o que realmente eu sou capaz e se o que eu quero estar ou onde eu estou é somente minha responsabilidade.
And once I set myself to do it, and I did it, even with my legs falling off, you know, it was a game changer. You know, it was a turning point for my life to see what I'm capable of and what I can do.
Então esse é um dos grandes pontos que eu acho para justamente mudanças de cultura como um todo, né? Você realmente dá esse autoconhecimento, né, de alguma forma, e a autorresponsabilidade às pessoas faz com que elas realmente mudem a forma de ver o mundo.
And this is dealing with cultural approach. Once people start believing themselves and understanding of what they can do, it makes the whole world like more open for you.
Yeah.
E já aproveitando fazer a pergunta, né, que eu coloquei aqui, se para ti no teu curso teve alguma coisa, algum ponto assim que você lembra que foi justamente essa divisor de águas.
So the question for you is, mas que tipo de curso?
No curso do Davidson.
So this is throughout Buds. Was there ever a point at Buds where you're like, man, I'm not going to be able to do this? And when you did it, was it like the turning point for you? You're like, man, I can fucking do anything now.
There was a lot of miserable points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the really miserable ones was doing on the edge of the pool. So they have the pool there at training is an infinity pool. Do you know what that is?
Tem
Fosso, né?
uma parte da piscina que é muito funda.
Que é
Né?
Yeah,
Well,
so the
fosso.
water drains off the edge and then it keeps the pool flat.
All right.
And what they would have us do is we'd lay on the pool deck and we'd have our mask on and you'd have to dip your head back, right? And fill your mask up with water and then tilt your head back while you were doing flutter kicks. And then you'd have to count. Well, as you would count, you'd wind up sucking the water up your nose and essentially you're waterboarding yourself.
Yeah.
So for, 30 minutes or so, they just had us doing flutter kicks and beating us. And I kept just waterboarding myself and choking and then throwing up all the water and throwing up all over myself. And then unfortunately to the guy to my left and right, the throw up was going all over them. It was horrible. And I was just like, sorry.
So even then you were thinking on your comb raise, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh, this sucks. This is so bad. So once the instructors see, like they think someone's going to break, right?
Yeah.
Then they come over and they basically swarm you and give you all the attention. And they thought they had me at this point. So when everyone else had stopped, they basically kept going with me for like another 10 minutes. And 10 minutes when you're like essentially drowning, is a really, really
It's a
long
lifetime.
time. It seemed like
Yeah.
the longest 10 minutes of my life. And I was just like kept drowning. They kept filling my mask back up. And I was just like, is this ever going to stop? Like, this is horrible.
This is the end of everything.
Finally, after like 10 minutes of me just sitting in a giant pool of puke, they're just like, all right, Graham, you're not going to quit, are you? And I'm like, no. And they're like, all right, this is disgusting. This is filthy. Okay, just stop. Go hose off. This is horrible.
You bashed, right?
But,
I think another fun fact from his Buds experience is that he graduated from class 236 and had some very important people like Lieutenant Mike Murphy
Yeah.
from
Red
Operation
Wings.
Red Wings,
Yeah.
was his friend.
Do you do the Murphy?
yeah. Him and I were in the same buds class.
No, I mean,
Oh, for the CrossFit. Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah, that's a brutal workout.
Yeah, I know.
That's-
That's what I'm asking.
That's horrible. Like all year long, you're like, yeah, man, I'm in shape to do that. And then it comes around, you're like, Oh my gosh, I'm getting old.
It's like going to the edge of that pool all over again.
Oh,
like on a
yeah.
different set.
And also there was another guy that I just learned this yesterday. You know Macmillan, the rifle.
Yeah. That's
Well, his son is also become a Navy SEAL in his bud's class.
really.
Yeah, we're out in San Diego together. Yep. He is a SEAL, and but yeah, to go to your point with having that struggle victory to where you earned your respect, going back to like men's leadership, I think this is one of the things that's creating a lot of confusion in our culture, right? As culture as a man in current day and time, because you have men who go to high school, and then after that they go to college, and then now going to college isn't enough. Now you need to go to like a graduate school. And next thing you know, you have guys who are almost 30 years old and they're just going into the workforce.
Yeah.
And now they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
Right.
So coming into the workforce, they have no money, they're in debt. And now at this point, they should be a father, raising a family, and they're just getting started. So you have this confusion, like the men can't have confidence, and they can't have confidence trying to meet a woman because they can't provide. The only thing they're bringing to the table is debt, you know what I mean? And no experience. So it makes it very confusing for men in the current time to actually feel strong. And one of the things that we've lost from our culture is what we would call the crucible, right? Maybe for you going through that run was like that life-changing thing. For the SEAL community, it's Hell Week.
Right.
Hell Week is before that. After going through Hell Week, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be good at being a Navy SEAL, but there is no question on, are you tough? Are you a team player? Will you stay strong when things get really hard?
Yeah.
And not give up and fight through anything, right? Everyone has a common respect. So that is your crucible. That is where you earn your own respect. That's where you earn the respect of the team.
E outro ponto que eu acho bem interessante, que eu aprendi também, e acho que justamente no Hell Week você aprende muito isso, que você não sobrevive sozinho, né?
And another very important point of going through Hell Week is that you learn that you don't survive anything alone.
Yeah. But like to your question, like, was there a certain point? So after coming out of Hell Week, you're like, I just stayed up for 5.5 days straight, doing physical activities, like really hard physical activities for 5.5 days. There's nothing I can't do. So the confidence you come out of that with is like, I just proved to myself that if I want to do it, I will.
Right.
And now you can move forward with the confidence in yourself, with it also with the respect of your teammates.
Yeah.
Most people don't have that opportunity in the normal like path that we have as becoming a teenager into the adult. Like we've lost that as a culture, not just here in Brazil, but also in the United States.
Sure.
So there's a lot of young men who are very confused in who they are.
Yeah.
And then what happens is there's a big feminist push. And then the men start pushing over toward the feminine side because they haven't actually become secure in their own masculinity, because they haven't actually been challenged. And society will tell us that we don't need to be challenged, that everyone should be a winner and everyone should have a trophy, right? But that doesn't build strong men. It doesn't build confident men, right? And it actually breeds chaos in a relationship. So I think it's very important that men have that crucible moment.
They become pussified, right?
Yeah, to an extent, it can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, perfect.
Acho que se deixar a gente fica até amanhã aqui.
Não, tem mais uma coisa pra perguntar?
Não, acho que não.
Well,
Eu acho que seria interessante fazer a pergunta-chave, né?
não, da liberdade eu vou deixar para o final.
Sim,
aqui,
então,
mas
pois é.
Uma coisa que a gente vai executar em outubro, que eu acho que vai
Fica à
ser
vontade, solta aí.
um destaque muito louco. O Brasil nunca teve um evento desse. Vocês já ouviram falar do True Exodus?
True Exodus, não.
Deem uma olhada nele. Ele é um dos pistoleiros mais rápidos dos Estados Unidos.
O que eu conheço é o Jeremy Culek, né? Que é o velhinho que tinha
mas dia 30 e 31 de outubro, né, a gente vai estar em Goiânia.
Pô, legal.
Né, onde vai ser o Rich, o True Exodus e o Charnesco. Todo mundo junto lá em...
Quando?
Dia 30 e 31 de outubro.
Eu acho que eu vou estar lá.
He's like Charnesco wingman.
I'm a Charnesky son.
E vai ser
You don't want to be his son.
Não.
Vai ser um evento, cara, espetacular. Né? Espero que vocês tenham a oportunidade de estar lá e também o resto do Brasil, porque vai ser uma coisa realmente muito diferenciada, entendeu? Deixa eu mostrar aqui o folder, né? Mas, e aí, qual a sua última pergunta?
Não, aí a pergunta...
Não, eu queria...
O nome do evento vai ser Titãs.
Bacana.
A gente tá para...
Manda foto pra gente depois.
Lançar esse...
Cara, isso aí realmente é uma coisa imperdível.
Sim.
Well, I really like how you think, you know, because you go back and forth, you don't say the title, you know, it's like we live in a war state. I mean, U.S. have been living in actual physical war for the past 20 years or more. If you scale if you don't take a conflict scales in place, right? But the main war, it's like you said. I mean, you didn't say but perceive. It's like a cultural war, right?
Yeah.
Of masculinity and stuff. It's not anything to do with a sex battle or anything. It's like a survival. I would say it's kind of a survival of a species, as a culture, you know, because even though we're Brazilian, we kind of have the same Western values, right? Especially as on down here in Brazil, as a mainly Catholic country and stuff. So the core values are pretty similar, even though we're more feeble on more stand ground because of corruption and stuff like that. Well, that said, you guys just changed your presidency, right? Donald Trump was ousted, and Biden got in. I know that there was a crave from the American people to not feed the grinding machine, right? To take young men to foreign lands to fight for whatever. And I don't know how cliche it might sound. I don't even know if it's real, but it's kind of movie thing, you know. You don't fight for whatever they think. You're fighting for the guy for the left side, right side. That's kind of a correct aspect.
That's a correct aspect at the moment.
But the greater picture also helps you to believe in a mission.
So
right?
I mean, it's one of those things where you fight for your country, and you fight for the people who need saving. You know what I mean? Like, you have the war got started because of a terrorist attack.
Right.
Then once you get there and you realize how bad these people have it, and you see what groups like ISIS or the Taliban do to people. Right. You know what I mean? Like, in America, we have feminists
supporting Taliban, right?
Yeah, you have feminists who are saying that they're oppressed in America, and it's like you have no idea what women's oppression really is. You know, if you look at other places in the world, and this is what's frustrating about it, the same people who are walking around, you know, doing these protests in the streets of America, none of them are protesting what's happening in the Middle East. None of them are protesting what's happening in Africa. There's more slaves in the world right now than there is in the history of the world. You know what I mean? There's more kids that are in sex trafficking and sex slavery right now than ever in the history of the world. And no one's protesting those kids' rights. You know what I mean? 860,000 children go missing every year in America. No one's protesting that. So they're protesting a bunch of bullshit. You know what I mean? And when you go to these different places around the world and you see how bad people have it in other countries, then a lot of the guys are fighting for them to have the rights like we have in America.
Right.
But in the actual act, so that's like the big picture, like the why.
Right.
Then when you get down to the actual, like, current situation, then all that other stuff becomes kind of irrelevant, because the only thing that matters is the guys who are with you, because you have to win. Yeah. You know what I mean? So at that point in time, you're not worried about world affairs. You know what I mean?
Right?
You're worried about survival. So in that case, the only thing that matters is the people that you're working with, so I would say that is true, but there's layers to it.
Right.
The brotherhood.
Yeah, I was trying to. Quer perguntar uma coisa?
Não, falei, só que eu vejo isso muito dentro da prisão também.
I see that a lot happening within the prison cells, within the prison system.
Yeah.
The police officers covering, each
Cover
other.
each other, the brotherhood.
Yeah, because you need each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not trying to debate or anything. If you don't want to answer, it's okay. But it's kind of a curiosity. It happens to you as American to be our first guest here in W2C on Defcom podcast. But I would like to know if you feel like, how do you feel what's happening on Afghanistan with the withdrawal, how it's being done? You can go technical or from your heart, or you don't even have to answer if you don't want.
There's nothing about it that makes sense. And everyone you talk to who has any military experience, or even people who work in the military, they look at it and they go, that doesn't make sense. The whole thing was just stupid. And I know I'm not supposed to go to other countries and talk bad, but it's just basic shit. If you're going to hold security, you get the people who are the civilians out first.
Yeah.
That's basic shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you bring the military troops back. Then, but one of the things aside from the civilians who are left behind, one of the things that's just crazy to me is we would do missions, like the military will do missions. If a helicopter crashes, you will literally do a mission to go find the helicopter and fucking burn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in many movies, right?
Yeah.
Right? There's missions that we cannot let the enemy get our technology. We cannot let the enemy get our radios. We cannot let them get this equipment.
Right.
And so I would understand if we are leaving this equipment for the Afghan forces to fight against the Taliban, and let's say the first one or two bases got taken over, and now the Taliban had access to the equipment that they got from the one or two bases.
Stuff, right?
At that point in time, with the communication with the Afghan government, if they were not going to fight the Taliban, and we didn't think they were going to win, at that point in time, there should have been strategic missions in place to go get all the equipment, where we should have notified the Afghan army, hey, put a thermite grenade in every single one of those Humvees and every single one of those big equipments, throw all the night vision on the ground and run it over with a tank. This is stuff that we've done before.
Yeah.
They've done things where bases were getting taken over and they throw everything in a dumpster and they fill it up with concrete, or they throw everything out on the ground, all the computers on the ground, and they take a truck and they run it over with a truck and break all the computers. But they didn't do that this time. And now all of the equipment that is the latest and greatest, best of the best equipment, this isn't old shit.
It's new stuff,
This is new stuff,
New
that
technology.
the best fucking trucks, the best equipment. And now the Taliban has it, and really who's going to have it now too is China.
Yeah.
Because China's already moving in. So this, honestly, what this seems like to me from an outside perspective is we just handed Afghanistan over to China, and now China's going to use Afghanistan to mine. And one of the things that I would recommend that everyone do, if you haven't done it yet, is go to the UN's website, the United Nations. If you go to the United Nations website and you read the Agenda 2030, right? It sounds like some Alex Jones conspiracy theory thing,
Right.
but if you read Agenda 2030, it talks about what the United Nations goal is for the year 2030. And in that, it talks about all countries will be equal. There will be no country that makes more money than another country. There will be no racism or anything against the gay and lesbian community, right? Which that is what it is.
Force equality.
No borders.
But basically what it says is everyone in the world is going to be equal.
Right.
So one of the things that's happening in America right now, as there's a huge push for America to turn to socialism or communism, right? The left is making a very big push and basically hijacking our country. There's things that America can do, right? America was just independent under Trump. We became independent on fuel. So we are making our own energy. We're having our own fuel, our own gas. And then as soon as Biden took control, he shut down the pipelines.
The pipeline, I didn't
Yeah.
understand that.
He stopped all the mining of natural gas, right?
Fracking, right?
All the fracking stopped. So now we're buying oil from the Middle East again. Why are we buying oil from everyone? We have it. Then there's the precious metals for all the microchips for all the cars. There's a car shortage right now because we need the lithium and the other precious metals. We have the ability to mine that in America. He blocked it, and now China is moving in Afghanistan. Guess what they're going to be mining, right? So what's happening is America has the ability to do all this stuff. It's on its own. And our government is making it illegal for us to do it there and forcing us to buy it from other countries. So essentially what they're doing...
Forcing dependence, right?
Yeah, but not just forcing dependence. It's forcing us to take the money from America and send it to other countries. So the COVID bill came out and they had this big COVID relief bill, and a huge majority of the money from our COVID, like this is trillions of dollars, and most of it got sent out to foreign countries. And it's like, why are we passing a COVID relief bill to save America and then take all the money and send it to all the other countries to pay for their vaccines and to pay for their this and that? And again, if you go, and when you look at it, you go like, none of this makes sense.
Right.
Unless you go to the UN's website and you read Agenda 2030
That
and
makes
you
too
go,
much sense.
this is, because you go, how is it that all the countries are on the same game plan? And we were talking about earlier about the importance to have a Second Amendment.
Right.
Countries that don't have a Second Amendment right now, like Australia and Canada and Germany, you're not allowed to leave your house. You have to get permission from the government to leave your house. If you don't have the vaccine, then you can't go to the grocery store. You can't.
We have that passport, I think, in Santa Catarina, our state.
That is extremely, extremely dangerous. That is
Of course it is.
opening the can of
So,
worms to
It
make.
started in Santa Catarina.
I don't know if it started, but I know for sure that they're passing that COVID passports, states citywide, I don't know, or statewide. I'm not sure.
Basically, what they're doing is what we have in China, the social credit score. Everything you do, you have to check in. Everything you do, people can report on each other. Like we were talking yesterday about how Chile doesn't have a police force
Yeah,
anymore.
did you hear
Yeah,
that Chile
right.
doesn't have a police force
But-
anymore?
So how everyone's going to tell on each other? Well, in China, they do the same thing. If you litter, right? If you throw that on the ground, then you go, you saw me and you report me. And on my social credit score, I get a tick on my social credit score, right? Now, maybe my interest rate on my bank goes up. My interest rate on this. Maybe I'm not allowed to go to a movie for a month. I can't go on the train for a month because I littered.
It's
Right.
Orwellian. This
Yeah,
story,
but
right?
it's all controlled by this passport. Like we're calling it a COVID passport. Really, it's what China already has, and it's the social credit score program.
Right.
Everything is monitored, everyone is tracked, and it's basically a complete forfeit of your personal liberties.
Right.
And the countries that have disarmed their citizens have pushed this the furthest because people can't do anything about it. So again, the firearms are extremely important for us to defend ourselves from criminals, but it's also important for us to be able to defend ourselves from a government that gets out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going that way very, very fast, unfortunately.
É?
Quer perguntar uma coisa?
Não, uma sugestão ali só a respeito justamente do que começou um processo lá também de acabar com os banheiros masculinos e femininos nas escolas.
Yeah, dude, the no gender bathrooms that they're trying to implement in the high schools.
No comments.
But it's asinine. You know, all this stuff doesn't make any sense. You know, and because the thing is to successfully implement socialism, communism, Marxism, whichever any one of those, they all lead to the same thing. They all lead to communism.
Yeah, check this out. The House Speaker, Psaki or Paskey, they asked her a month ago, hey, you guys are telling us to get vaccinated, but what about the staff? Are you guys getting vaccinated? Is it obligatory? They said, no, what you say? No, we're not obligating our staff to vaccinate. But you're obligating us to vaccinate?
Yeah, the dude from Pfizer hasn't got his own vaccine yet. And,
Really?
Yeah, and the president.
Now I'm worried because I took Pfizer.
Yeah, well, he
It was
has,
the least worst here.
yeah. Well, I mean, his thing is like, well, you know, until everyone else gets vaccinated, I don't want to do it because I don't want to steal someone's vaccine. It's like,
Oh,
come
I
on,
steal
man.
somebody's vaccine.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
How convenient.
But yeah, it's wild. I forget what we were just talking about before.
Oh, I think
We're talking about
Eu acho que agora
the passport
O
and
interessante
the
foi a
UN
pergunta da liberdade.
agenda.
Sobre a liberdade.
Well, I want to let you guys go to enjoy the event, but there's one last question that we always do, which is, well, it's not simple, but it's a powerful question. What is freedom to you, what it means, and what you're willing to do to keep yours?
Good question.
What I think freedom is having the ability to choose. And even if the choice is wrong, I should still have the ability to choose.
Perfect.
Because even when it's wrong, you're learning from it. You know what I mean? And I had this argument with someone I don't even know why I give them the time of day, but like we're going back and forth on this on social media the other day.
Right.
And with the vaccines being a topic, if you want to wear a mask and you want to have a vaccine, go for it. I'm not going to harass you over that, but don't tell me how I need to live my life. Don't tell me what I need to do. Right? Cool. You want to be gay? Go be gay. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But don't tell me that I have to live a certain way or do a certain thing. You know what I mean? And that's when you start trying to dictate other people's lives. I think that's where it becomes a dangerous thing.
Tyrant society, right?
Yeah, because as an individual, as long as I'm not hurting someone else, right, and as long as I'm obeying the
basic concepts of the
basic
society,
concepts,
right?
yeah, you know, and but I think they're abusing that with COVID.
Yeah,
I think they're using that as an excuse, you know what I mean, to overstep their bounds under the thing of, well, you know, if we can save one person, blah blah blah. And it's like, of all the things with the survival rate, I should be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not afraid of COVID. For me personally, with my health concerns, with my blood clot and all that, I think that the vaccine is more dangerous for me because blood clots are one of the big side effects, and I already have a fucking 96% blockage. That's why I'm not in the military anymore, right? So for me to go take the vaccine, it's dangerous. So I should be able to have
suicide, right?
Yeah, I should be able to go sit down with a doctor and talk with the doctor and say, hey, this is what I have going on, and make the decision for me. What risk versus reward? What do I want to do? And sometimes that's right, sometimes that's wrong. But that's the same thing with business. I should have the freedom to open up a company, or I should have and take the risk, or I can go be an employee and work for someone else's company, take no risk, and have a steady income, right? And live safely. That's your choice. We need employees. We need business owners. But we should all have that choice to be able to do that and not have the government or other people make those choices for us and predetermine what our fate looks like.
Yeah. Agora a segunda parte.
And the second part, what? I mean, you didn't do the fortunately for us, the ultimate sacrifice, but why are you willing to sacrifice for your freedom, for your liberty?
For me, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you have to live by your principles. And, you know, if it's one of those things where you sacrifice some of your income or you sacrifice, you know, opportunities, you have to make that decision for yourself. But if it's one of those things where they start doing this stupid stuff with these COVID passports and they say you can't travel without a COVID passport, well,
watch me.
Yeah, either I'm doing Underground Railroad or I'm just not going, like, you know. And it's one of those things. There's a lot of businesses that I really like and I just can't support anymore. There's a lot of restaurants that have great food, but the choices that they're making, which I feel like are against the freedoms of Americans, I'm not going to support them anymore. So the first step is I'm going to support or not support based on my money. You know what I mean? I'll give my money to the people who deserve it, and the people who are trying to steal my freedoms, I'm not going to give them my money anymore. I'm not going to empower them. I think one of the big things, though, is as parents, I think parents need to really start standing up to the schools and holding these school boards accountable, because the most dangerous threat, I believe, to a free society right now is these schools teaching socialist and communist crap to our children. Because what's going to happen is they're going to brainwash the younger generation, and the younger generation is going to turn all their rights over to the government.
Yeah.
Right? They don't need to take your guns. The next generation will give them away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're building a misguided youth that feels guilty about being a boy or a girl. They feel guilty about their skin color. They feel guilty about growing up in a household.
Yeah.
Like, what is it you want to do as a parent? You want to provide for your children, right?
Sure.
You want your children to have a better life than you had. But now what your schools are teaching your kids is if you have a good childhood, then you're bad. Everyone should have a shitty childhood, right? And nothing's ever good enough. Your color's not right. Your income's not right. Your sex isn't right. You know what I mean? Nothing's right. And these kids are being brainwashed with chaos. Everything is chaos. There's no sense of security and there's no sense of peace. So I think one of the biggest things is we need to really stand up. If we're going to talk about securing freedoms, I think we have to get rid of these teachers who are brainwashing our children, because otherwise, you know,
It doesn't make much sense, right?
like nothing's going to work out.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Acho que a gente pode parar aqui, né?
Yeah, I think we can have wrap up. Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you,
You're welcome.
Rich. Thank you very much, actually.
Yeah, it's
Very
great
much.
to be here with you guys. I appreciate
It's
the
awesome.
opportunity.
All right. Então é isso aí, pessoal. Fechamos aqui o primeiro. Agradecer o Rich e o Bob.
Já começamos
E
bem.
o Vaz aqui.
Obrigado, Rodrigo.
Valeu. Valeu aí, galera. Um abraço. Tchau, tchau.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Now,
Thank
we
you very much.
Thanks to be our